not in any particular order. I probably have spent all of my objective capital with you as a chauvinist. I am a Jewish chauvinist. But I'll still tell you that no matter what you hear, and no matter what Swedish newspaper says whatever the hell they say, the code of conduct of the Israel Defense Forces, I challenge anybody to line them all up, the codes of conduct of the top 20 countries in the world. The code of conduct of the Israel Defense Forces makes the others look dead. One of the greatest documents produced by this secular Jewish democratic state is the Code of War Manual and Tohar HaNeshek of the Israeli Armed Forces, and by the way, it is prohibited to take even a wristwatch off the arm of a dead guy who tried to kill you in the Israeli army. I can't answer your question fully. It's a wonderful question. It has many nooks and crannies to it. What am I permitted to take? What am I not permitted to take? I remind us, it depends on what kind of war we're talking about, that the Torah prohibits us, for instance, for cutting down fruit trees. We just read it recently in the Torah, right? And the Torah says with its characteristic Jewish irony, what is the tree is a person? Then you chop them down? That meaning, you chop down people, you have to chop down a cherry tree, you have to chop down an olive tree. We're not allowed to destroy food supply for anybody. That would be another one. If you find a nice girl in the war booty, we had the Torah, last week, 2 weeks ago, talking about Eshet Yifat Torah. We see a nice woman and a captive, and we want to take her, we want to marry her, we want to take her home. War captive women. And look at the Torah's regulation on that. You got to be able to live with that woman for a while, then you find out if you really want that woman or not. And according to one interpretation, you're going to make herself look very ugly. And after 30 days, when she's as ugly as she can look, they're going to ask you a question, you still want this woman? Oh, good God, give her back. Good. Because we'd like you not to take the women from war. It's a wonderful topic. It's a hot topic. There is absolutely no shred of anything that you can take the organs from anybody. Again, I'm knocking the Aftonbladet in Stockholm, garbage, and say to you that it would be no surprise, I suppose, to anybody here, that a tradition which talks about allowing for contraction and expansion in instruments of measurement should also have something to say about war booty. And I remind, last thing, the book of Joshua, a very difficult book, because we really schmeiced the enemy in that book, at least half the book. Interesting to see how many times the book of Joshua says that you may not take any booty of war. Achan ben Zabdi ben Zerach, a guy took booty of war, and there was an entire public display of the shame of that person and the punishment of that individual and members of his family because he took some of the booty of war. Imagine, it's a half of the chapter in the book of Joshua. Isn't that an interesting thing? Why not to take booty of war, you ask? Because if we take the booty of war in the book of Joshua, it means that the reason that we're fighting is in order to get the goods. And the Torah says, no, the reason you're fighting is because God gave you the land of Israel and this is your home. The minute you dip your hand into booty, your motives are suspect. You killed the guy because he was wearing a nice watch. You see the point? So you touched on a really hot topic, which I can't do justice to, unfortunately. But these are a few observations that maybe you find interesting, and we'll talk for the rest of the year. Thank God you'll be, and welcome to the staff. It'll be a pleasure to interact with you. Another question, please.
You talked about the Torah focusing on behavior and not abstractions like love. And yet there is the story of, I think it was Hillel, where the heathen came to him and asked to be taught Torah on one foot. And the answer was, love thy neighbor as thyself, do unto others, etc. And I know it also said go and learn, but there was this first part about love thy neighbor.
Is the line that you're thinking of from the book of Leviticus, Vayikra. You shall love thy neighbor as thyself. And Anita says, she learned from me that Judaism does not talk about love as an obligation. And yet there it says, love thy neighbor as thyself. And even the man of Nazareth said the same thing when the Pharisees came to question him, according to the gospel both of Mark and of Matthew and Mark, right? Who said, what's the greatest mitzvah in the Torah, they asked him. And he said, as a Jew, Two. They did one. He said, Shema Yisrael, and V'ahavta l'recha kamocha. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. So even he quoted the line. Of course, he wasn't educated the way he should be, so he didn't quote the line properly, but it doesn't matter. What does it mean, love thy neighbor as thyself? Number one, it doesn't mean neighbor. The word re'ah in Hebrew does not mean neighbor, it means other. O-T-H-E-R. So if the person lives in Cleveland and the other guy is in Columbus, he's your neighbor. Whether you like it or not, it's other. Then the ahavta, as you learned with me and Edith, she's a shill really. It does not mean to love, because then you get some pretty bizarre thoughts in mind as to what you should do to your neighbor, which is also done frequently, I understand, in society, but not what the Torah has in mind. And that is, you shall treat the other as you yourself would want to be treated. It has nothing to do with love, it has to do with self-respect.